The paper map was supposed to be foolproof. Maya's grandfather had drawn the trail himself, tracing the rugged veins of the Blackwood Ridge with a thick waterproof marker. Yet, standing beneath the canopy of towering pines, Maya, Leo, and Jonah realized the terrain had completely rewritten itself. According to the grid lines, they should have been standing on the rocky edge of a steep ravine. Instead, they were standing at the perimeter of a perfectly circular, unnaturally manicured clearing. And right in the center sat a cabin. "This isn't right," Maya murmured, turning the map 90 degrees to match their compass. "There hasn't been a structure recorded in this sector since the logging camps closed in the 40s. And look at it. That's not 80-year-old wood." Leo took a step forward, his boots crunching loudly on dry pine needles. The cabin was built from dark, polished logs that seemed to absorb the dimming afternoon light. It had a steeply pitched roof covered in immaculate slate tiles, and two pristine glass windows faced them like a pair of unblinking eyes. There was no smoke coming from the stone chimney, no footprints in the soft dirt, and absolutely no sound. The usual afternoon chatter of birds and insects had completely vanished. "Maybe it's a private ranger outpost?" Jonah suggested, though his voice lacked conviction. He checked his phone. Still no service. "Actually, wait. My battery just dropped from 80% to 4 in 3 seconds. "Mine too," Leo said, staring at a black screen. He looked back up at the structure. "There's something else. Look at the shadows." Maya followed his gaze. The sun was setting to their left, casting long, dramatic shadows across the forest floor. But the shadow of the cabin didn't stretch eastward. It pulled directly beneath the structure, a perfectly round ring of absolute blackness, as if the sun didn't quite know what to do with it. Curiosity, laced with a growing sense of unease, pulled them closer. The clearing was perfectly level, which made no sense given the steep incline they had been climbing for the past 2 hours. As they stepped across the invisible boundary where the wild forest ended and the clean grass began, a sudden, metallic taste filled Maya's mouth. "Do you guys hear that?" she whispered, stopping dead in her tracks. Leo tilted his head. "Hear what? It's completely dead out here." "Exactly," Jonah said, his eyes wide. "No wind, no leaves rustling, nothing." "No, listen closer," Maya insisted. She walked up to the heavy oak front door. It lacked a traditional doorknob, featuring instead a smooth, brass plate where the keyhole should have been. She pressed her ear against the wood. Deep within the structure, a rhythmic, mechanical sound echoed. It wasn't the ticking of a grandfather clock or the hum of a generator. It sounded like a massive, heavy heartbeat made of gears and shifting plates. Thump click, thump click. Leo walked around to the side window, shielding his eyes to peer through the glass. "Hey, guys, come look at this. This makes zero sense." Maya and Jonah hurried over. The glass was cool to the touch, entirely free of the dust and pollen you'd expect in a dense forest. When Maya looked inside, she expected to see rustic furniture, a hearth, or maybe some old tools. Instead, she saw nothing but a smooth, white wall just 3 inches past the glass. The window didn't look into a room, it looked into a solid block of pristine, featureless plaster. "It's a fake," Jonah whispered, backing away. "The whole thing is a prop. Someone put this here to mess with people." As if responding to his words, the heavy oak door behind them clicked softly and swung inward, revealing a pitch-black interior. The open doorway didn't reveal the white wall Leo had seen through the window. It opened into a narrow, dimly lit hallway that stretched far deeper than the exterior dimensions of the cabin should have allowed. "Okay, absolutely not," Jonah said, taking a firm step backward into the clearing. "This is where we turn around, hike back to the trailhead, and pretend we never saw this place." "And go where?" Leo asked, pointing out toward the forest. Maya looked back and gasped. The familiar trail they had just walked off was gone. In its place was a wall of dense, impenetrable fog that seemed to rise directly out of the earth, swallowing the pine trees whole. The air outside was turning a sickly, twilight gray, and the temperature was plummeting rapidly. "We don't have a choice," Maya said, her voice trembling but determined. "The fog is too thick. We'll get lost or freeze." With no other viable options, the trio stepped across the threshold. The moment Jonah's heel cleared the frame, the heavy oak door slammed shut with a deafening thud. Instantly, overhead recessed lights flickered to life, casting a sterile, white glow down the corridor. The interior looked nothing like a log cabin. The walls were made of a brushed, seamless metal that felt warm to the touch, and the air smelled faintly of ozone and old paper. The rhythmic thump click they had heard outside was louder now, vibrating through the floorboards beneath their sneakers. The hallway led to a single, circular room in the center of the structure. In the middle of the room stood a lone, minimalist steel table. Resting precisely in the center of the table was a leather-bound journal, completely out of place in the high-tech environment. Maya approached the table as if it were a sleeping predator. Leo and Jonah flanked her, their eyes darting around the circular room. There were no windows here, and no visible vents, yet a steady, gentle breeze circulated through the space. "Should we touch it?" Jonah whispered. "We need answers," Maya said. She reached out and opened the heavy leather cover. The pages were thick and yellowish, filled with dense, elegant handwriting in dark blue ink. Maya flipped to the first page, expecting a log of building expenses or a ranger's diary. Instead, her eyes locked onto the date written at the top of the entry. It was tomorrow's date, July 6, 2026. They arrived precisely at 2:27 p.m. Maya read aloud, her voice dropping to a panicked whisper. 3 of them, the cartographer's granddaughter, the skeptic, and the runner. They think they found us by accident. They don't yet understand that the map was drawn to bring them here. Leo grabbed the edge of the table. Is this a joke? Who wrote this? Maya flipped the page. The next entry was dated 2 days from now. The transition was successful. The exterior facade has served its purpose. The subjects have ceased looking for an exit and have begun to look for a reason. Look at the last page, Jonah urged, his breathing shallow. Maya rapidly turned the pages toward the back of the book. The handwriting grew frantic, the ink smeared. The very last entry was dated 3 months into the future. There was only one sentence written across the entire page, scrawled in massive, shaking letters. We forgot to lock the basement, and it found them. Just as Maya read the word "it," the mechanical heartbeat beneath their feet stopped. The sudden silence was deafening. The sterile overhead lights flickered violently, changing from brilliant white to a deep, ominous amber. "The floor," Leo hissed, grabbing Jonah's shoulder. "It's moving." It wasn't a violent shaking, but a smooth, hydraulic descent. The circular room was dropping like an elevator, sinking deep into the earth beneath the Blackwood Ridge. The walls of brushed metal began to slide upward, revealing that the cabin was merely the tip of a much larger, subterranean iceberg. Through the gaps in the shifting walls, they caught glimpses of massive, subterranean caverns filled with rows of identical metal pods, hummed with a low, collective energy. "We need to get out of this room right now," Jonah panicked, rushing back toward the hallway they had entered through. But the corridor was gone, replaced by a solid sheet of dark, reinforced glass. Maya ran to the glass panel, looking through it. On the other side was a long, observation deck looking over an immense, underground facility. A massive digital clock on the far wall was counting down. 0 hours 3 minutes and 14 seconds. 0 hours 3 minutes and 13 seconds. The countdown, Maya realized, her mind racing. The journal said, the transition was successful. It wasn't talking about us walking into a room. It was talking about a relocation. Leo began inspecting the metal table in the center of the room. "The journal is gone," he noted sharply. Where the notebook had been, a small circular indentation had opened in the steel surface. Inside the recess sat 3 metallic bands, each glowing with a faint, pulsing blue light. "Look at the clock," Jonah yelled. 2 minutes left. What happens when it hits 0? "I don't want to find out," Maya said, staring at the bands. "Put them on. Are you insane?" Jonah yelled over a rising hum that filled the room. "We don't know what those do. We don't know what happens when that clock hits 0 either." Maya countered. She grabbed the first band and snapped it around her left wrist. It automatically tightened, molding perfectly to her skin. A sharp jolt of energy shot up her arm, and suddenly, the digital countdown on the wall appeared directly in her field of vision, flashing behind her eyelids. Leo didn't hesitate. He grabbed the second one, locking it into place. "Jonah, do it." With 5 seconds remaining on the clock, Jonah cursed loudly, snatched the final band, and slapped it onto his wrist. The moment the third band activated, the amber lights cut out completely. Absolute darkness swallowed them. The mechanical heartbeat returned, but this time, it sounded right beside them, breathing in the dark. Thump click. A blinding flash of white light erupted from the center of the room. Maya felt a sensation of falling upward, her stomach twisting violently as the air was sucked from her lungs. Then, the smell of damp earth and pine hit her. Maya blinked, shaking her head. She was sitting on the ground. The sun was shining brightly overhead, casting normal, eastward shadows through the trees. Leo and Jonah were beside her, coughing and gasping for air. They were back on the trail, just a few yards away from where they had first noticed the clearing. Did we dream that? Jonah choked out, looking around at the perfectly normal forest. Maya didn't answer. She looked down at her left wrist. The blue metallic band was gone, leaving behind a faint, glowing silver barcode etched permanently into her skin. Slowly, she unrolled her grandfather's paper map. The clearing was no longer empty. Right in the center of the grid, a fresh, ink-black square had been printed directly onto the paper, with a single word stamped beneath it: secured.